Right, my name is Michelle Buchler. I chaired the ministerial task team to develop a national RPL implementation strategy in 2012. The responses that the task team has received about the report and the strategy has been very positive. I think the most important thing is that setting it up sends out a message that we have to devote more attention and space to RPL, that having a policy in place is insufficient to drive RPL implementation, and that we need a coordinating mechanism to ensure that it takes place. Some of the criticisms, particularly I think coming from the higher education sector, are that the knowledge that people bring into the academy is not in some ways academic enough. And there is insufficient recognition on the side of many universities to the idea of other knowledges or alternative knowledges, and that would include things like workers' knowledge, indigenous knowledge. Well, contentiously, we don't live in the West, we live in Africa.
Right.
And there is a whole other way of thinking and philosophy base and knowledge base that does not necessarily contradict Western knowledge systems, but is certainly different. And we need to think about issues around knowledge, curriculum, qualifications in ways that are more contextually relevant to South Africa and the African continent. We need to really be more proactive and reflective, I think, in terms of how we try to conceptualize development and transformation and issues of justice. Yes, I think that South Africa is moving into a primary position with regard to RPL implementation. I think that one of the reasons for that is that we're not only focused on the doing of it in simplistic ways, but we're also theorizing about it and reflecting on it and thinking very seriously about questions of knowledge and alternative forms of knowledge. Yes, the Department of Higher Education and Training, I think the current minister has a very serious commitment to redress, to a much more inclusive and expanded education and training system that pulls in those who are on the margins, in whatever shape or form that might be.
Is that really what RPL is about, redress?
It's not only about redress. I think there are multi-purposes and there are multiple imperatives and drivers. So one of the drivers recently of RPL has been the revised financial services legislation, for example, where financial services advisors, estate agents, and people working in those kinds of areas are now required by legislation to acquire certain qualifications at a particular level. That drives RPL. So we see multiple drivers. The key issue about redress and what I refer to in my discussion as social justice issues is that it's very easy to focus on those who are already privileged, those who already come with qualifications, those who have particular levels of academic literacy, for example, because it's much easier in many respects to do RPL with groups like that. It's not so easy to do RPL with people who are unemployed, who have lower literacy levels. So one of the things that we haven't spoken about so far in the conference is the fact that there's a softer side to RPL. It's not just about assessment. It's not just about saying you have this piece of knowledge and therefore we can give you this part of a qualification or credit towards. The softer side of RPL is that it also can and should restore some level of self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence that very often, because of the way the system has failed people, it really removes to some degree some of their dignity. And if people are constantly failing within the system, it takes away their self-esteem, and that can only have profound implications, I think, down the line.